Welcome to the Feral Minds Podcast. You are right where you need to be, and we are glad you're here. Come seek with us as we laugh at what we have known and find direction from what our curiosities demand we learn.
All right. Podcast reflections. Here we are, sitting roughly 6 months. I mean, depending on how quickly the editing goes, it might be right on our 6-month anniversary when this comes out. But we thought this would be a good time to sit down, kind of reflect on what the journey has been like up to this point. I get asked a lot, whenever you mention what you do.
Yeah.
What do you do? It took me a while to get to the point where I would say I'm a podcaster. I didn't say that right at the front. At first when someone would ask what I do, I would still just point, I'm a philosopher. But as I said when we decided to start this podcast, I mean, if I'm going to call myself a philosopher, where I was then, I was the laziest philosopher I'd ever seen. You don't get to just run around thinking you got a bunch of good ideas and a great way of living life and keep your mouth shut.
Well, nobody's going to pay for it anyway. But
that's the other question. Yeah. How do you make money doing that?
Yeah. I don't know what am I telling people I am these days? I certainly still talk about the podcast a lot. I am.
Well, that's where you spend all your time.
Yeah, but it's. I've also come to grips with, at some point in time, I was selling Amway or Tupperware or Pampered. I'm shoving it down my friend's throat.
Oh, yeah.
Have you watched my podcast? Watch my podcast. Oh,
buy
yeah.
My kids'
and
cookies.
sell it to everybody else and
donate.
And there was like, I don't know, maybe about 3 months in, I was like, I got to stop this crap, man.
Yep.
Like I started feeling people that were nervous to be around me because they didn't want to answer the question whether or not they listened to my podcast.
Yeah.
And so I don't want my friends having that burden. And so I tuned into that about 3 months in and just shut up about it, right? I'm glad to talk to you about my podcast if you'd like to, but I understand the errors of my ways. This didn't mean that, like, I was never intending for this to be a multi-level marketing scheme because it's kind of what it started. It started feeling that way. Like
it does. It's like, have you told 10 people?
There's nothing more awkward. But I had one guy who I was coaching through this time frame, and again, so now you're talking about a different relationship, and that it's a relationship where I'm not shoving the podcast down your throat. But there's a lot of our podcasts, especially those early episodes, that I think can help any middle-aged man.
Mm-hmm.
And about my 4th coaching appointment with him, I asked him, have you listened to the podcast? And he said, no, I've been real busy. Well, we've just talked about what he hadn't been doing. And so, like, at that point, it was like, all right, I cannot.
You just told me
I can't be macing people with my podcast. Because that's what it felt like to me. And then I realized, like, you know what? These podcasters have existed before. Well, a podcaster is a modern-day ham radio operator.
You think so?
Yeah. You're standing on the edge of society. You're an amateur broadcaster. You have no license, right? I mean, you have no credit score. All you did, we don't even know if you stole these mics or how you got them, but you've been able to get together about $5,000 worth of equipment and throw it out to the world. And so I think that's on level with I know ham radio was more just about basic level of communication, but I think as far as being
I would say
a little bit different in terms of, okay, would you say podcasting is a career now that somebody would go out and aspire to be? Would they go to college to become a podcaster, or would they go to college to become a journalist?
I still think journalism, I guess, would be the way to go on that. I would say that to be a podcaster is more, and now this is just our 6 months in, it's more a labor of love. Honestly, this is one of those that you got to love doing it. You've got to have a passion for the activity.
You got to feel it,
or at least a passion for what's coming out the other side of it that keeps you going whenever you're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we never will. That's a whole other show to talk on. But that's not what we needed right when we started doing this.
Yeah, but
I didn't expect to get paid 2 weeks after I hit record for the first time. It wasn't that kind of financial reciprocity that you're going to get from this career.
What I like about it is you just don't have those gatekeepers, and so anybody can do it. And it really doesn't. We spent a little bit of money with the set and certainly with some leases, and we started out in the studio, but that's not required.
We started out in a library, borrowing library rooms for our offices.
Yeah,
and then getting material together to go record at a studio.
Yeah,
I mean, we
with a few wrong turns along the way, with quite a few, we just did. You don't know what you don't know. And you don't even know why you're drawn to do this, but all of a sudden, you're on this adventure where you're trying to figure it out, and there's very little guidance in front of you. You're just kind of walking through and seeing what happens.
Oh, yeah, it's like walking with blindfolded through the dark, and you're just feeling out with your hands.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, you'll feel something, like a comment from someone. Hey, I listened to your episode. That really touched me. Or, wow, you guys got some good things to say. And little motivating like that, like the way we call it is wind in the sails. We'd have to go a little bit, and if things slow down, like we were looking for something that's going to be wind in our sails.
Yeah.
The feel good of a good episode that got released, a comment from someone, an interaction out there. We started off the show talking about how often people will say, I haven't got to your podcast yet. But obviously that's not always what you hear, or we wouldn't still be 6 months in reflecting on where we've been and where we're headed.
I just think it's a unique medium in that, like, if I was into abstract art and I painted something, I wouldn't walk around with it in my backpack, jamming it in people's face. Look at the brush strokes, the incredible combination of colors. We wouldn't do that.
No, we wouldn't.
But that's what we did with the podcast. And like you said, it came from a pace of passion where we wanted people to listen to what we were talking about. And even though at times we didn't know what exactly we were talking about, what we were supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, not to say that there isn't good content here just because I can't 100% answer the question, what's your podcast about?
No,
to an extent, I think the fact that I don't have one succinct answer to that speaks to where it's going to be all over the place. There's honestly, it's a variety show now.
Yeah, we're not
what
niche
we're
people.
into.
Yeah, we're not going to talk to you about, the latest appliances, the laptop, what AI is going to do to us
Any
next
sort
month.
of investment strategies is not happening.
And that was a lot of guidance we got when we first started is, what is your niche? And the reality is we don't have a niche.
No.
And in fact, I would say our niche is not to fall into a niche.
Well, I love the Seinfeld
we're just explorers.
It's a show about nothing.
Yeah.
Which means it can be a show about
everything.
Anything, which makes it a show about, so to speak, everything.
Yeah.
It's something I'll I guess, kind of defend a little bit, some of your behavior, like you're talking about, that you're feeling bad about shoving up in people's faces.
Please defend my behavior, please.
So while I do agree that, it's not exactly like you're taking your art and stuffing it in their face. It's a little bit more like you got your art, you've built a studio, and now you're out there shoving your advertisement in their face. Hey, come to my studio. Come to my studio.
Yeah.
And in our defense, our podcast coach just told us to do that. I still, in the back of my mind,
you got to
hear the line that I didn't follow. He said, you've got to market yourself like your kid is missing.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that. I've still got my kid. I
feel like I did that. I wasn't on Facebook. I was on LinkedIn. I got on these platforms. I pushed it.
You
right?
did. The
Every
amount
episode,
you did on LinkedIn is beyond.
Well, but the funny part was Facebook. Like everything I did on Facebook, nobody'd look at it, and I was so puzzled by it. Like, what is the? Do they hate the podcast? Do they hate me? Do they hate me only when I'm in the podcast? And so I'd post a picture.
Just blame the algorithm.
Oh, well, again, I'm new to Facebook. I don't really know how this works, so I'm kind of just fumbling my way through it. Right. So I didn't know. And I'd gotten some guidance that you do a family picture and then you do a business interest picture. And I never could figure out why. I mean, they love my kids. They hate my podcast. So that was puzzling to me.
I just being on the other side of that, like I'm like you. We both got in this at the same time. If you're curious how it went at the beginning, you listen to our episode on social media because we still sound like two guys who just got out of prison and doesn't understand why the world's moving so fast and all these newfangled cars.
There's a currency that we don't transact in,
but
we're trying to learn.
Completely different than I did when we did that episode. I mean, it's an ever-changing relationship with it. You know, we were talking, I was mentioning to Becky the other day how disenfranchised you were with Facebook. And I was also saying, like, I don't think you ever really got into it. You know, like, for me, I did get super excited about connecting with my third grade teacher.
Yeah.
You know, I had a few things come out of it where I was like, wow, this is, I don't know, brought some clarity to a social understanding that I didn't have. I didn't have a social media understanding at all.
Does your past hold a lot of mystery for you?
My past?
Your past. Just your past existence. Are you curious by what you've been, former versions of yourself?
Wow. I don't know. I think I've dove into it so much. I'm kind of over past versions of myself, and I'm looking for new versions. I've seen what old me does, and I'm kind of done with that. So that's why, I'm going to see what new me's got to offer.
So that's why Facebook's real confusing to me. Oh. So I don't really like to live in what had already happened. Mm-hmm. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. Like, I understand cherishing memories and all that, but that's just not for me.
No, you don't drive the boat looking at the wake.
The Facebook thing for me is always like, oh, memories from 2 years ago. Oh, memories from 3 years ago, which kind of makes me feel bad too. Makes me feel like, what have I not done with that 2 or 3 years? And so I knew Facebook was not going to be for me. I'm still on there. I don't do much on there. I really don't have any plan to do it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing because nobody looks at what I do. And so it's a little bit like...
if they do, they don't thumbs it. Or they don't interact. They're just creeping from the side.
But the net effect is you just feel like a lonely dude getting no thumbs, right? And so if I was constantly going to... let me take this back to like junior high. No, let's go college. If I'm constantly going to a bar and I'm getting dressed up and I'm really like I hit the gym that day and I'm going to show up. But when I get there, nobody acknowledges me. Like, I shine myself up, I polish myself, but here I am over here, and nobody. Am I going to keep going to that bar, or am I eventually just going to go like, well, what am I getting dressed up for? I don't need that. And so that's kind of how Facebook has played out for me. But I do like the connectivity. I was able to connect with one of my pledge brothers, and we later went on to meet up at OSU 25 years later. That was a really cool moment. That doesn't happen without Facebook. Like, Facebook orchestrated that moment. So I think from a connectivity standpoint, I love Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are more people that I will eventually connect with. From a, hey,
finding your social presence.
Yeah. Here's my life. That just doesn't, that's just not my thing.
It's not. It's something you've got to kind of figure out, I suppose, as you go where you want to be with it. Like, I'm a different person now on Facebook.
You're still figuring
than I was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, I was laughing when we were on there. I thought it was kind of funny when I first got on here because you don't know what everybody's been doing. You just jump in and it's like, oh, I'm going to do what I think people are doing. So I thought it'd be funny to just say, oh, I'm just sitting around looking for likes and put a picture of myself. I didn't realize.
Was that funny? Is that funny or just sad?
I look back on that now, man. That is cringy. Like, that is just...
Because now you know Facebook culture, right? You didn't know Facebook culture. And so when you get into these new elements, you have to learn what am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? And you're figuring it out. Like, you're still figuring. I just went to out. Like, I got into figuring, I got confused, I got frustrated, I went straight to out.
No figuring, just out. I get that.
And I don't really plan on going back to figuring. But, I mean, everybody's going to have a different take. And like
you don't feel an obligation there now?
No, not at all.
I got a little bit of that. It's like, because I did, I'm trying to dive in, because I do, and a little bit of why I got this podcast, a little bit of everything. About 9 months ago, I decided that I was pretty excited about my truth. And I wanted to share it with the world because I thought we all might benefit.
Okay.
I don't know if that's grandiose, egotistical,
or
what the heck is any problem with that. But seriously, I had seen a point in my life where I'd figured things out. And I knew I'd figured them out because I'd seen a point in my life where I didn't know. And I felt the difference in between that lack of experience and where I was now. And thought that would be something that I want to put out to the world. And it still is. I still wholeheartedly want to share every aspect of my truth with the world.
Yeah.
What I figured out is that it's impossible to just flick a light and say, here you go, here's my truth, world. You can't show all of it all at the same time. You'll try to show one facet of it, and then that will get bastardized, and then other facets won't show up as well.
Yeah.
Even if you could put all of it right up there for everyone to see, everybody's not looking at it. You know, like you and I talked about, it's not like as soon as we hit post that all 270 of our friends saw it right away and then chose not to react.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what's happening through the algorithm. Like, you and I are sitting here trying to figure out what we've done that makes our friends not want to give us thumbs up.
You figuring I'm out.
But it's not the friends. It's the algorithm. Like, we're not even fighting against the human beings that we see.
Mr. B says the algorithm is just the audience. Right? That those two words can be replaced.
But even if it
synonymous.
is, it's still the audience trying to control the algorithm.
Yeah, but
you see what I mean? There's a difference.
What is the difference, though?
The difference is if I am managing my thumbs up, just based on, you know what, I like that. You know what, that was funny. You know, hey, that person probably needs a thumbs up. Nobody's given them one yet. I'm going to thumbs up that one.
Yeah.
That kind of happens whenever you don't care about what thumbs you give. But when you start running through your mind, crap, if I give them a thumb up now, the algorithm's going to start sending them in my feed all day long.
Yeah.
And so then you're starting to thumbs up for the algorithm, not thumbs up for the person or for yourself. And that's how I say that it will never be the individual who's controlling what they see.
Yeah.
You are always working through the lens of an algorithm, and that algorithm's telling you what to think, and it's telling you what to see. So if you spend all day staring at that little screen, letting the algorithm decide for you, not to go too far on our social media episode,
algorithm also, when
you ain't thinking for yourself.
When you do that algorithm thing, you also give yourself a reason to have this boogeyman controlling it instead of the people that you're trying to entertain or appease, right? It allows you to have this state that's in the background. It can't be my fault and it can't be their fault. I'll blame the algorithm, right? Who is a faceless entity, this cold, limp fish of a Facebook form that is the algorithm or you know, whatever. I feel like you're doing interesting stuff. People will give you the thumbs or you're not. And then there's the inner circles where, you know, you're just going to thumb your kids.
I got one.
And you're going to thumb up your friends' kids. And so, I don't know. The thing is very exhausting to me.
I'll give you one. I like getting movement, stretching, workout tips, yoga tips, meditation, things like that.
You get that off Facebook?
Yeah. Okay. They'll come through in your feed. Now, here's what you got to watch out for. If you're not careful, just thumbs up in something or looking too long at something that might be workout related, you'll get the algorithm thinking that you're just staring at attractive looking people scantily clad.
Well, are you not?
Well, you are.
Okay.
But
then what exactly is wrong with the... It's not supposed to know?
But you don't want it to start thinking that you're just a perv on here that likes to watch girls work out.
Now you're worried about the algorithm, what it thinks of you?
That's what I'm saying. So you can't thumbs up that or you're going to look like... And then it just keeps coming through your feed. Like it's almost like you're trying to build your persona through the algorithm that it can give you stuff in your feed that matches what you think you need to think.
It's fun just watching you trying to figure this out.
You're
literally just taking a ball of yarn and spinning. I think it's this way and that way. And it's just like, wow, you really got you're Sherlock Facebook. You're in there just trying with a magnifying glass, trying to go, okay, if I look at what they want me to look at, then they'll think I'm looking at what I want me to look at, but I don't want them to know that I'm looking at what I really want to look at.
What you're hearing, yes, you're hearing my over contemplation for social situations.
Dude, I don't know what I'm hearing.
You have no idea how much I'll overthink just walking up to say hi to someone.
Yeah.
And then you start throwing in the different dynamics that you can go through a Facebook interaction. Yeah, there's a lot to over.
Yeah.
And you'll get to a point where you don't even know what you're swimming in anymore.
I know. I'm realizing now you got Facebook Asperger's. Yeah, anyway, it's been a fun ride. We started out in a studio, a really nice studio.
It was.
It really was.
It was way more studio than we needed.
Yeah. It had bulletproof walls and it had that door that literally felt like it'd come off a bank vault.
Yes.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And so we felt really good about that. And then we had a live event probably 3-4 months later.
Yep.
And we borrowed the microphones, and we understood that the microphones do all the work.
This is where the magic is right
It's
here.
all in the microphone. So spend your money on the microphone. So from that point, we just decided to build our own set, knowing the mics are going to do what we need them to do.
And the set doesn't have to be perfectly soundproof.
It doesn't.
That's what scared us at first.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't. We're going to spend too much time putting stuff on the walls, trying to knock down echo, yada, yada. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
All you need for a good studio like this is, like you said, great mics, and then whatever the heck you want to stare at behind you.
Yeah, and we went with theater/old church curtains. These kind of look like the curtains you get baptized in front of.
Would you believe we got them on sale?
Yes, I would.
Because if you remember,
Yes, I
we
would.
wanted a different color. This was not our first choice.
Yeah, there's only so many
and
colors.
that's what I think is funny, guys. I've had a few people hit me up about how our set resembles something else. And the main things that come up from that are the color of the curtains, and then the 2 plants we got. And I don't think anybody realizes that's because the budget is what swung us this way. Those 2 plants were the biggest plants that we could find on Facebook Marketplace the day we were trying to buy plants.
And we
could buy them at the same place. They're completely different.
I think you go the other way. Next time, you just say that's exactly what I was going for.
Oh yeah, that's what
I'm plagiarizing the living crap out of whoever's set you saw. It's exactly what I'm doing. And notice how it got you. It worked.
Maybe so.
There's only so many colors of curtains. It comes out with that. And of course, these chairs where'd you find these chairs?
Estate sale chairs.
Yeah.
And I'm still pretty
Gritty.
proud of the chairs, man.
Gritty. This is a gritty set, man.
It is.
This set could have been a single wide, but it became a set.
Yeah,
And,
the amount that's been spent on it. Yeah.
You can't even see the cinder blocks.
Oh. And the cinder blocks were some of my favorite decor.
We got enough cinder blocks to steal at least one car, maybe a car and a half.
Well, no, we just steal the tires, jack it up. But the car stays. We get the tire.
Yeah, my bad.
Here, you can keep the cinder
wheels
blocks.
and rims at least times 4.
If you're ever watching this and you see the microphones coming off of tires instead of cinder blocks, we executed the old switch out there.
You know what happened. So we start in a fancy studio. We end up in kind of this, I don't know, man, paperclip together setup that we have that's working for us.
There's duct tape and wire involved.
Yeah, and so we've had some guests. Guests are kind of challenging at this time with
you talk about
with
the
our
studio
size and studio setup. So what we want to focus on now is creating a lot of content, and to do that, guests make that hard.
Well, and we like the variety too.
Yeah.
When we start off early on, some of what, like you're talking about, we had to go into this studio and we haven't really done anything yet. We don't know what our show is going to look like. And we're looking to other shows to get ideas. One of the main podcast shows in the world right now, like 2.5 hour episodes. So when we start off going in, it wasn't nothing for us to think, well, we need to at least be here an hour. We're knocking out 1.5 long recordings.
Yeah.
And while I'm still very proud of that content that came out, it's no denying that it's much more difficult to get someone to watch an hour and 15 minutes of your content than it is to get them to watch 59 seconds.
Yeah.
So after a few months of us putting out these longer episodes, content rich, I feel, even with an hour and a half, there was a pretty good point or something of interest or entertainment that came up for me, at least every 5 to 7 minutes along the hour and a half, and that kept me wanting to listen.
Yeah, you're a little biased.
But then I think
you're a little biased.
you love your own voice way more than anybody else. But from learning though, and realizing that we also, anybody else who put out content, it's a lot easier to get 59 seconds worth of attention. So we started trying to get into that game. We're trying to get to the 59-second window game and put out some shorts that are a little bit of the snippet that say, hey, go look at the bigger product.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the idea of being able to create, because as you mentioned, which we didn't really go into, we're going to go into some shorter form content instead of longer form.
And not just 59 second, like 10 minute, 15, 30. Just whatever.
The
just
shorts are the chop of the longer content. But the creating the hour and a half long podcast, those are labor intense. Right? They take time, they take setup, and it doesn't allow the exploration that I think we want to explore.
Yes.
And so that's also a product of this. We want to find current topics. We want to find things that we just experience and be able to come in and have a 10, 15-minute conversation around that topic and not have to have an entire podcast out of it.
We used to plan for a week and a half, talking about a topic.
So we want to
that did limit the amount of content you're going to be able to bang out when it takes you 2 weeks to put together a show on change or dealing with fear or finding purpose.
Yeah. But also heavier topics too, right?
Yes.
We're kind of moving to topics that are a little more fun, and I'm sure we'll have heavy topics, but those topics were really weighty, and so I think it'll be good for us to have a little bit of variety. But
more small talk, not so much big talk. Pepper in a little bit of medium talk.
Just so much existentialism to the nth degree. Sometimes it's fun to just have fun, right? And not have to have the purpose being outside of the fun of the moment. It's not necessary.
Well, like,
just have fun.
For example, Deuce's Gone Wild episode.
Yeah.
There is very little insight in that. Unless you want to bring a philosophical discussion on how we all poo. Let's not look down upon the activity.
It is something we all
do. But beyond that one's it's just kind of for entertainment. Not a lot of philosophical insight coming out of there.
But I think you'll see us do more things like that as we just explore, and that's also the nature of being an artist. Is you are in anytime you're creating, you're within the evolution of your creation, and that's going to change. And so from this perspective, we're looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday content.
Yeah, at least 3 days. Yeah, put 3 days a week.
We're on YouTube. Of course, you still get the audio through the podcast platforms. We haven't figured out how to get the video on Spotify, but we need to figure that out. So that's a to-do list.
There's always something.
Yeah. So, but you're going to see a wider range of topics. Some topics that are just not quite as heavy and circumstantially weighted as some of the stuff that we talked about. I'm sure we'll dip back into that stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, we naturally kind of lean towards deeper conversations, but
there's only so much small talk you can have. At some point, it gets big.
I don't know. Let's turn
That's
small
what I've
up.
always said, but I want to lean towards the small talk, too. Let's keep it light, keep it fun.
It's fun. It's fun.
And keep it attention-grabbing.
Yeah.
Because that's what, again, back to what I would say our main change we need to do from the beginning of the show is just do better at being able to grab and hold attention.
Yeah.
And whenever you got an hour and a half of content out there, it takes a special person who says, yeah, you've got me for the whole hour.
Yeah, and we want to get reps too, right? So the more we get in here, the shorter they are. Mm-hmm. We just want more reps on the mic. And so that's also part of this ham radio action that we're doing, right? We're going to come in and tune in Tokyo a little more often. And that's part of it. So we felt we owed this explanation. I think we do, to all the fans that have been here with us from the get. We appreciate you. We don't know who you are. Feel free to call the thought line. It's there for you.
Yes.
But
reach out, help us with our content. We've had a few. Like, one of the things that drove us towards YouTube was one. I think it was an email that it came in. Or do you get a thought line email after they send the message?
Yeah, no, there was some
whatever.
People
Somebody
wanted us to get on Facebook.
Get on YouTube. You've been talking about it too long. Get on there.
Yeah.
And that was a motivating factor. Like, we did dive head first into making sure we got to that point. And here we are. We're on there now, and we're ready for the next ship change, the next direction change. We'll take some
I think it was just an explanation of why things are changing. Right? They're changing because the nature of our creativity, the nature of our art is changing a little bit. It's getting long, short, and so we're rolling with that. So anyway, there's more content to come. That's net effect. You're going to get more content. It's going to be a little shorter in duration, but that's about what you're going to feel. So thanks for being here.
We look forward to what it becomes and taking you along with us.
Yeah, and we don't say it a lot, but clearly likes, thumbs up, all these things were helpful for us. I think we just kind of said we're not going to beg for the thumbs up and the likes, even though we probably should.
Maybe we don't beg. Maybe we just tell
doing
them.
It.
You don't want to just tell them?
No,
you don't
know
just
how it works.
Just come with assertion.
You don't like if you're
smash that like button. But subscribe.
People know how that works. I don't think that's necessary to be explained anymore. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong.
I know it helps me remember.
Maybe
when I get done watching one, if they don't say that, I don't think about it.
Okay, so at the end of every podcast, then you lace them up with that line right there. Like and subscribe.
Smash that like button. That's the one I like. I like saying, smash that like button.
That's good. That's good. Do it in that Macho Man style. All right. I think that's all we got.
I hope so.
All right. We would like to thank you for listening to the Feral Minds podcast. Hopefully we triggered some curiosity that will have you seeking more. Remember, your mind is meant to run. Slap some sneakers on that bad boy and take it around the block. If you'd like to connect with us or enlist our feral thoughts on a problem in your life, visit us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or at theferalminds.com. Also remember, our thought line is always available, 24/7. We don't even allow it to sleep. And we want to hear from you. That number is 866-340-3394. Again, that number is 866-340-3394. We look forward to hearing from you.